Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, don't worry, you are on time for our interviews this particular morning. And I'm starting with a conversation around public litigation. A doctor that has been very busy along the corridors of justice is with me in the studio this particular morning, Dr. Benjamin Magare Gikenyi. And many would ask, Daktari, first of all, karibu sana, and thank you for creating time for us.
Karibu sana, thanks a lot for having me here. Thanks a lot.
Karibu sana. People want to know, what is a surgeon doing at the courts each and every time? It's not the first time we've seen you in the public domain advocating for several issues that are pertinent on matters of public interest. We'll talk about those later, but who is Dr. Gikenyi?
Okay, my name is Dr. Magare Gikenyi. I'm a consultant trauma and general surgeon from the county government of Nakuru. In addition, I'm also a human rights activist. Our work is to defend the rights of Kenyans and ensure that there's fairness in society. And then in terms of where I come from, essentially I was born in the Kisii County in a place called Mokonge, then from there I came back, nikasoma Mokonge Primary, Bogesake Primary, Yakimoni Primary, nikaenda high school in Kisii High School. Then I went to University of Nairobi to pursue my Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery for 5 years. Later I came back to work as a doctor. Worked at Thika Level 5 hospitals, Nakuru PGH, Molo, Elbagon. Went back to masters at Moi University for 5 years. Then after that, I did my masters in general surgery. Then later I did fellowship in general surgery. Then I went for leadership and management in Washington University. And finally, after doing a couple of public interest litigation, I also ventured in law.
In law?
Yes.
Yeah, that is exactly what I was looking for, because in the history of, even your academic and, professional, line of studies,
Yes.
Many people have been really curious. This person we've seen, really advocating for what has been described as matters of public interest. Who is he, and what is a doctor doing? What does a doctor have to do with all this? But you'll tell us more about some of the issues.
Yes.
And let's get there.
Yes.
Dr. Gikenyi, the litigator, where is this coming from? What was your inspiration, and how did this journey begin?
I think I can say I was inspired when I was young. Like when I was in our family, we were born in the village of Mokonge village. We were 16 of us in the family. And we were not very good in terms of economic status. We were among the poorest people in society. So sometimes when I was a young boy, when I got to my springs, to fetch water, like in rural village you don't have taps like the way you have you just come with a mtungi. There's a spring, then you unachota like that. So but then the challenge came that even when we were working there, because of our society, the small boys used to chase us. Even if there's a lot of water, they just chase you. You people just don't fetch water. So we used to sit there and wait until they allow us. So I used to think it's very unfair, because water is a lot. It was like in Kisii, normally they don't have a scarcity of water. So, but then when I came, then later I was employed. So I said, when I grow up, I would make sure there's fairness in society. Then
so
also,
it's a dream that was birthed when you were still a young boy?
Yes, a young boy, yes.
Okay.
In addition, currently I live in Nakuru Town West. Well, that's where I work, because I've been in Nakuru County for almost 19 years. After kusoma and getting A and going to university doing medicine and surgery. So I am in Nakuru. During Nakuru, when I also went for masters at the University of Moi University. During that time, when we were in theater, like when you were in theater, you were waiting, you are done as a first surgery, waiting for another one. Sometimes you just discuss politics, mukingojea as you wait for others. So there used to be an American doctor who came. During that time, it was around 2017. We used to argue about Trump and Clinton. That time was Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, the first aspect. Of course, I was a supporter of Trump then.
At that time.
So then So, and she was a supporter of Hillary Clinton. So during that time, when we said I support, she felt very bad. So when we went for a holiday, that is 2017 holiday, December holidays, he talked the HOD of Department of Surgery and the Dean, but then the Dean was Professor Bukoya Tuori. And then when I came back, I was suspended, meaning that I was a bad student, that I cannot be a good student. But then I asked myself, even if I was a bad student, I think I should have been given even time to kujitetea, in short.
Yeah.
That was the right to be heard.
So you felt like you were aggrieved.
I was aggrieved. I feel very bad. So then I said, there's what's called Fair Administration Action Act. You have to be given an opportunity and notice something. But all the same, to cut the story short, we went to the court for judicial review for my rights, and I was given an injunction so that I continued making my study, and then I finished. So I said from there, people as a society, we need to work for the betterment of society. So that's why if you don't move to court, you will never get your rights.
At what point did you begin actively engaging in these matters, public litigation? And probably you can run me through some of the cases, issues you've interacted with, and why you were drawn towards that direction.
Yes, among the cases which I interacted, number one, during that time there was a COVID in the year 2020. On the schools, the COVID came around March there, around 2 weeks before we closed the school. All students were sent home. When COVID subsided, the then Minister of Education, Professor George Magoha, the late, and then the PS, Pelio Kipsang, produced a memo that the first term will be, when they resume, will be assumed that it's lost, it will be lost. They will start afresh. But I asked myself, when you repeat a whole term, and there were only 2 weeks remaining, it will be very unfair to the even parents. So I moved to court, Nakuru court. That was among my first cases. Yeah. So I moved to court, and then the court agreed with me. You can't do that without involving stakeholders of education. Then during that time also filed cases where the then President Uhuru Kenyatta appointed 34 judges out of the 41. But I will say that whereas us, we moved to court to get justice for ourselves, judges also have rights. There are
to defend you. So you became the defendant.
I became the defendant of the judges because human rights is for all humans, and the judges are also judges. And the court agreed with us. We also filed this case with Katiba Institute. Then there was that aspect of e-citizen case where, for example, right now people are charged 50 shillings. And if you calculate the 50 shillings, those people, the money which is charged, the 50 shillings, does not go to the consolidated fund. It goes to what I call the shadowy figures. And we got the orders. Because if you calculate, they make almost 600 million per 1 month. And that money, they say it's used for maintenance of the system. And the system was procured without us being involved. Then there was another case which I filed recently of the National Infrastructure Fund, where the president said that he wants to make to establish that fund, but that fund has to be developed from Parliament. Cabinet cannot develop a fund. So
you're questioning the how and
the process.
You're not. Are you in any way opposing the establishment of the fund itself?
Yes, especially it's as formed as a limited liability company, because that's what they have said. It formed as a limited. If you look at the PFM Act, Public Finance Management Act, a limited company is not one of the modes which public funds can be established. So those are among the grounds which we have raised. Then there was another issue of course, this one I've recent about the legal fees for public advocates.
Yeah. Before we get to that, because I think I want to explore that a little bit.
Yes.
Let me take you back. This is not the first time you have challenged some moves by the powers of the day.
Yes.
There was that other issue. You, together with 3 others, filed a petition to fight a case that was touching on the multi-agency team to fight corruption.
Yes, that's true.
Established by President William Ruto. Yes. Tell me a bit about what was concerning for you about that, and how did that case go?
Because the Constitution, as the supreme law of the land, has introduced an institution called EACC by virtue of Article 79. So that institution, the one who is supposed to deal with all matters of corruption. But then the president, under the office of the president, decided in their own wisdom that they're supposed to form a multi-agency team. Essentially, this team is doing the work of the EACC. The constitution needs to be followed to the letter. That's why I moved to court. The establishment of that is even worse, is not a good thing. But even worse, it was supposed to be headed by the office of the executive office of the president. And you realize during that time, the same office of the president has been implicated through the office of the Auditor General in what they call the SHA scandals. In fact, the case is even in court. We also moved to court about the SHA issue. What we were saying is that if we look at the SHA issues, the then NHIF requested the exchequer to give it 800 million on, so that they can now make the system robust. 800 million is 0.8 of a billion. That's even is 1 billion for a practical purpose. They requested 1 billion to make that system better. Instead of them being given a billion, the government, in its own wisdom, then procured a system for 104 billion. You have been asked to give me a billion? Instead of getting a billion, then that system was used 104 billion, which in my view is against the prudent use of financial resources. So that's why among the reasons why we said you cannot be, if you are accused, you cannot head that as an EACC.
Okay, that's conflict of interest.
Yes.
Back to the EACC. Do you think EACC has effectively played its role in the fight against corruption? And probably, what are your thoughts in a change of strategy, bringing the multi-agency team, because they've always said the war against corruption is not a one-man's show? What are you?
What I can say, number one, EACC has, in my view, has failed us, but with a rider. That the EACC, the failure by EACC is not the failure of the laws and the constitution. I think that's been made to be so. Sometimes if you have a strong system, the power to be are afraid about the same. So I think that's why, in my view, the major reason why the same is happening, because it has been weakened through one reason or the other. Because if you realize EACC will not function on its own, it has to function in the basis that there are other agencies assisting it. Assisting does not mean assisting in terms of the functions. In terms of, for example, because it is there are many other areas, even prosecution. Yes, it does not have prosecution powers. The only prosecution powers found in Article 157 by the Office of the ODPP. So I think those are the things we are trying to say. If you look at the holistic aspect, then you will see that.
So the multi-agency team was not necessary from your perspective?
It was not necessary. It was because the EACC has a capability to investigate on its own using those agencies. They don't have to come together, so that now they say the agencies to be headed by the executive office of the president.
So what reforms would you propose that would make EACC really effective in terms of cracking the whip on the war against corruption?
My view, I think they don't need reforms. That's my view. What we need is we have leaders who mean what they say and say what they mean. I think if you realize everything, you see, like for example, the architecture of even the constitution, like the executive, legislature, and the judiciary, was meant the one to check the other. So the architecture was good. But the reality of the matter, like in parliament, the executive essentially controls what goes in the legislature. If you see from the legal framework, it's essentially normal. The challenge is that the legislature needs to stand their ground, not necessarily change the law, but they need to stand their ground. That's my view. Recently,
you've taken issue with the hiring of private lawyers to defend government.
Yes.
That is a case that has been on the public domain in the past few days. Yes. LSK has also come out very strongly and given their position on that particular matter. But tell me, what are your concerns?
My concern, for example, is that if you look critically, there's what we call imprudent use of financial resources. Article 2 of the Constitution requires us to have prudent use of financial resources. If you realize all resources, including public resources, are scarce, they are not ubiquitous, they are not a lot. So, but if you check, for example, in the Article 156 allows the AGs to employ state councils, and they have a lot. They are almost more than 1,000 or thereabout. In the counties, they also have what we call county attorneys and county legal counsels. Even in the independent offices, we have legal officers, and even public officers, state parastatal of legal officers. But even having that, what then happens is that we as Kenyans employ those state officers. Then at the end of the day, we also look for private legal advocates. So then at the end of the day, we lose. And in most cases, even the way they are charging is very high, exorbitant price. For example, there was one firm which did one case, and it was paid almost 243 million, which is $250 million for one case. Like, for example, in Nairobi, you see in the Office of the Auditor General, so we have 21.3 billion in terms of legal fees. And in that one, 6.3 billion is shared among 4 law firms, just 4, which is an average of 1.5 billion per law firm. If you see this, if you add this and many others, you will find that sometimes you wonder why do you employ people then you don't use them? It does not make sense.
Take me to the to the cobweb of how this works.
Yes.
The mess that you're trying to, together with the other petitioners, trying to address. You've said we have over 1,000. Is it 1,000?
State councils.
State councils.
Yes.
You know, just take me through the pattern of how things work from your analysis, having the 1,000 state councils, and how it usually works that we end up having more private advocates, you know, on government issues. Yes,
and for example, if you check on the office of the state councils, the way I've said they have a lot of state councils. Ideally, what they do, the state council is they are the one who prepares the cases. They prepare when they are ready even to file. Then their boss in quotes instruct, oh, there's a senior counsel coming, just give him. So
they are because I wanted to find out what do they do then.
Yes.
So they are still involved in the process, but up to a certain level. That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's the practical part of it. But the realistic point of view, when they are charging, they assume they do everything. Then I love even the terms of charging, they use what they call advocate remuneration order, which is form pursuant to section 44 of the Advocates Act. That act, that advocate remuneration order, what it says, you can charge legal fees based, among others, on the complexity of the case and other circumstances of the case. The word other circumstances of the case, nobody knows them. The complexity of the case, nobody knows them. So sometimes I can do a case and say, this case is very complex, I need 100 million. But if you realize, the Kenyans, in their own wisdom, before the pre-2010 constitution, the public service was in chaos, where you can get one person earning 10 bob, others earning 2 shillings. So to bring harmony, we brought up what we call the Public Service Commission, which essentially brings order, they have to be married and everything. In addition to that, we also brought, that's Article 232 on the Public Service and 233. We also brought what they call SRC, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission. Essentially tries to moderate how much public officers earn. But these private advocates, when they come in from private to the government, they don't use the SRC rates. They come with their rates based on their private rates. What that one means, it disturbs because at that time in physics we used to call it time T. At that time T, which this advocate is representing the government, is doing public service. Ideally, he or she should be remunerated based on the public service. But what we're having is coming from private to the government, but it's saying how much is being paid. For example, even us in the medical field, we have doctors, surgeons, and else. If somebody wants to work in the public service, what happens? You come, but you are paid at the rates of the public service level. Like as doctors, we have what we call KMPDC rates, Kenya Medical Practitioner Dentist Council. Their rates, for example, you have cancer of the head of pancreas, you want to do what you call WIPOS procedure. From the KMPDC rates, you're supposed to pay almost 300,000. But when you come from...
that is per procedure?
Per procedure is one procedure.
The doctor is paid that?
Yes.
Okay.
If you
change professions?
In the private, I'm saying in the private.
Okay.
But the same doctor, if you come from the private, and in any case the doctors want, you are employed, you are given a temporary contract. But you're not paid per procedure in the public. You are paid per the number of days which you have worked. If you work half a month, it's half a month times the salaries of a doctor of your status, how much you would have earned. So even if you do 100 procedures, you will not be paid 300 times 100. So that's why we're trying to put across, there's what we call prudent use of financial resources. That's why, for example, when you hear them saying they will never talk about Article 201.
All right. So let's understand this now in the context of what you are talking about, the hiring of private lawyers.
Yes.
What, in terms of billions, let's play with some figures.
Yes.
How much could we be losing in your estimation when it comes to the tendency of hiring private lawyers by the government?
From my simple estimation, it's more than 100 billion. Because if you realize it's in all the counties.
That is in an annual?
Oh, that's annual. Like currently, the counties have 56 billion legal fee. The figures in the national are not very clear because there are thousands of state corporations. There are thousands of public institutions. So if you were to add, it becomes a lot. Sometimes I always ask myself, as Kenyans, if each and every one of us were to have to enrich themselves through public funds, we will not have funds for the healthcare, for the infrastructure, for our children, and moving forward. I always ask myself, if you realize, for example, as a society we live, there are three major, the society is generally divided into three major groups. The upper class generally are those people who is who in Kenya. Their work is to amass wealth. Then there's what we call the lower class. The lower class, their primary role is just, when they wake up, it's just food. Our do nothing else. Then there's the middle class. Me and the majority of us were middle class. In the middle class, there are two major groups. There are those who just they come to work, they work, they just want to sit and move on. Then there are us in the middle class who want to make our society better than we found it. That's why, for example, they always say, Chinua Achebe, there's a book I read, Chinua Achebe called Things Fall Apart. It says, and I quote, that as men has learned to shoot without missing, the birds have learned to fly without perching. So what that one means, if people have come to learn how to circumvent systems, so that they can achieve their intended goals.
Their selfish interests.
Yes.
Is there room for the government sometimes exploring the private option when they are looking for specific proficiencies? You know, like lawyers are not experts in everything. I want to assume, I'm not a legal expert, but I want to assume there are lawyers who are meant for maybe matters constitution. There are lawyers who are meant for matters maybe technology and digital. Is there room for the government sometimes, to go that direction if they're looking for a specific, depending on the type of case, the nature of the case?
Yes, that's what I can say. But in most cases, back the lawyers, they argue mainly, they argue by virtue of Article 227 on procurement of services. They say that legal services need to be procured. That's the basis why we have external lawyers. But they feel that if you let the purposive interpretation of the Constitution, even in the Article 227 on procurement of services, those services must be cost-effective. So that, for example, if we have already employed people, you cannot base that argument and employ others. But you have asked the question, is there room to hire for those specialized expertise?
Yes.
The answer is yes. We can have those special expertise. They can be hired under the public service principles and guidelines, even for a short time. There are many, even the word employment. Employment does also mean that the permanent employment. Like here, for example, in Royal Media Services, you can be employed in permanent and pensionable. You can have temporary contract, even for a day, even 2 days, to cover that specific issue.
So still, they do that, but still they fall under employment.
Yes, therefore, under the public service guidelines. The reason behind that, because in majority of, even check anywhere, there's nowhere an employee decides how much he gets paid.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Magare Gikenya. Asante sana for creating time for us. We've come to the end of this. I know there is still a lot that we can explore with you.
Just one final aspect.
Yeah.
First, I want to ask Kenyans, we have one and final aspect. As Kenyans, we need to think globally. All of us sit down and ask us critical questions on how we need to run ourselves, considering the prudent use of financial resources. So that at the end of the day, we try as much as possible to ensure that our society, we live a better place than we found it.
I like that. That's a challenge to many people out there. Do you just want to live your life and move on, or do you want to live like the likes of Dr. Gikenyi, who wants to leave the world a better place than they found it. Thank you so much, Surgeon doubling up as a public litigator. Dr. Benjamin Magare Gikenyi was my guest. We are taking a very short break. We are back with much more as we look at the aftermath of Uganda's election.